Okay, it is time to start. Today I'm going to cover chapter 10. Chapter 10 is about storage and space management. So we in the previous chapter we created new database instance through in-class exercise. And once you create a new database instance, it still depends on your configuration, but normally the new database instance will have designated table spaces. And table space is logical place where tables and database objects are located. So, but it doesn't mean you will have only one table space for one database instance. You can have multiple table spaces. And the logical table space may be linked with multiple physical data files. And explain also under the physical database file, there are other units, smaller units than the physical files. Segment extent, we learned briefly about those units in chapter 8. And the smallest unit of database is data block. And in the block, there are multiple row data. So this is the example, but it is beyond the example because it shows multiple columns, and the actual data in the columns belong to a block. So still depends on size of block, but by default, normally if your column size is not too long, one block may contain multiple columns. Also, it can contain column information, physical location of the data should be belong to certain column, such as key ID, the number of columns, and row overhead means number of rows, and also contains information of column which belong to the block, contains column meta information such as column length, column data, and other column length and the column data. So if you create employees table, which is has the same structure of table we use for info 3560, one block may contain multiple columns and data in the columns, such as employee's ID and employee's name, first name, last name. But if the column size is too long, like address in locations table, the maximum length of the location table, street column in location is 255. In this case, by default, block size is 255K. In this case, one block may contain one column only. But normally, if the column maximum length is less than 200, multiple columns can be located, can belong to in a block. Okay, and by default, if you create a table space, if you create a database instance, which can be done through DBCA, the table space, at least one table space will be created. And in one database instance, there are 3 table spaces: user table space, systems table space, and sysaux table space. So basically sysaux table space is for auditing. So it contains a track of changes in the user's activities. It records who and when, who connected the database, and when the users are connected on the database and what SQLs were executed by the users. So to utilize sysocs table at the maximum level, you need to look at some views. Let me show some examples of the view in sysocs. So this is one of some examples of users audit, because there are lots of tables which are related the system audit and user audit or database audit. So I made some example queries, and so I'm going to the database for Info 3560 because we haven't had users activities on our database in the virtual machine. So that is why I will run audit SQLs at the database for Info 3560 because now at this point students in Info 3560 are using Oracle database to do their assignments. Okay, so I will paste the query here. So it shows, you can look at v_session view, but if you simply go into the view, then you can see there are lots of records. So it is query to get the list of sessions of info CV user, which is on my account. Okay, it shows. It only shows current session. I'm not connected on database. Or if you simply run this query, then it will show how many users are on, how many system processes are connected to the Oracle database. Username, schema, where is schema? In this case, username is different from the user account. It is system role or privilege of the users. So that is why some username is sys and some usernames are null. So to check out using user account, you have to look at schema name column. And as you can see, right now only sys account are on the database, which means there's no students are on the database. Okay, let me run this query, this one. It shows user ID and time and what type of SQL were executed by the user, which is CBank. And that is my account for this semester. So you can see select SQL, PL/SQL were executed by info_CBank account. And it also shows time, date, a millisecond. And another query is looking at DBA audit trail. So it shows username and time date only, and actually the type of SQL. And it also shows if it is completed or not. So as you can see, some tables, because you can many of views doesn't only contains part of information. Sometimes you need to join with other tables. And this is another query, another view we can look at. It shows what queries are executed by InfoCV. Or if I run info underscore only, it shows what SQLs were executed or issued by users start with info underscore. But I'm not going to show username because well, anyway, the reason is I need to keep some privacy for the students. I only show SQL and when was loaded and when was completed. So these are the query executed by users. Okay, and another query is, well, I'm trying to make the finalize this query. So I don't have any data for now, but that if I complete this query, then it will show full SQL text and which program they're used and username and time. So if you Google audit SQL or audit query, then there are many examples which shows users' activities in time and such as when they are executed and how soon the SQLs were executed and or how long it took take by the SQL. Okay, so anyway, tables and views are related to sys aux is for system audit. And system table space are used for, it mostly contain meta information about users and also defines roles and privileges are defined in system table space. Then where the actual data stored, in users table space, not in systems or sysops. And when you create table space, normal user table space, you can define if it is a big file, table space, or a small file. But normally small file is the default table space type for users. Okay, then this is the query to create table space. Let me go to my EM and it will show, I believe it will show table space information, even though I haven't created additional table space because there is one default table space for a new database. So, okay. And by the way, let me show a picture because you may think, how can you realize the information and knowledge we learned this in this course for my career? If you work in a company, and you definitely if you work in IT company or IT department which develop in-house applications, then you will need to meet database. And the database we touched so far only had couple, maybe less than 10 or about 10 tables. But normally, the number of tables you need to handle is more than 100. And this photo shows number of tables. It doesn't show exactly, but it indirectly shows how many tables I managed or designed. Okay. Can you guys see it? Small rectangles. These are tables. And okay, I think I got up to 5 more pounds than I'm right now. Anyway, these tables are linked, which means associate. And I actually cut some less important tables in this ERD. So, but there are 350 tables in this ERD, but the actual total number of tables are 563. So, and because you need to make very complicated entities and relationships and tables and data, that is why we need to learn how we're going to operate Oracle database. And to operate the Oracle database properly, you need to understand the background concept of Oracle database. So, which company it was for? I designed the database for Jackson Thornton, which is accounting firm in downtown Montgomery. So right now I'm working for, well, they are my client and I'm working for the company. And I just a couple of months ago, I finished cleanse data and normalize tables. And then the next step is building, I finished to convert and mapping and extract the data from OLTP database to data warehouse tables. So it has 20 tables, which are heavily aggregated, and the data warehouse tables will be used for business intelligence. So I'm working, what I'm working right now is building user interface to generate reports and dashboards. So yes, it's a lot. Some table has more than 20 columns like this. But there's a reason why they have very complicated structure of tables. But the reason is the system was operate more than maybe very prolonged time, like 20 years. So that is why they have very complicated table spaces. Anyway, so where is it? Okay, so this again, one logical table space may have multiple physical files, but this command is create logical table space with one physical file. Data file option determines how many physical files are related to the logical table space. Yes. No, you don't need to write now. This one, these examples.
No, I see it's 2 plays within.
No, no. The quiz only asks if you understood the previous chapters, or if you remember what I mentioned in class.
So we already do.
Well, no, it is on the quizzes. Two quizzes you need to take today is about chapter 8 and 9, not about the current chapter.
When are they due?
Chapter 8 and 9.
Are they due today?
Yes. And there's some several more options like what is maximum size of data file, and the maximum data file is 200 megabyte. Sounds like very small, right? Think about the multimedia files like MP3 or video. Even these days, most of MP3 files are 5 megabyte, but if it is hi-fi audio source, it is about mostly, it should be about 20 megabytes. So compared with the purpose of multimedia database files, still 20 megabyte for data file is small. But what if too many data was inserted to the data file and it is over 20 megabyte? What will happen? Oracle automatically make the next data file. So even though you have one data file, when you create new table space, by time goes on, you may have multiple data files. Okay, and if that is a small or regular, small is regular in this case. That is small database file, and if you don't want to separate it data files for one table space, you can define big file table space. And big file table space can support up to 2 power 32 blocks in size. And I haven't checked the maximum file size of big file table space in 19C. But anyway, it should be more than 100 gigabytes for now. And as Oracle updates their Oracle database, maximum size for one table file has been increased. And actually it is still increasing. So whenever they show the new version, the maximum file size for big file table space are increased. Okay, and that is those two queries are creating table space and data file on file system, which means the data file is managed by operating system where the Oracle database is installed. But OMF table space is table space managed by Oracle file system. So again, it is up to you. It is up to you. And some Oracle database admin may prefer OMF table space, but it is managed by Oracle, and the mechanism and how internally managed is hidden, which means it's kind of sandbox. So we don't know the internal mechanism of file, how Oracle database manage the file. So, but it is secured. It is secured, more secured than file system. And OMF table space, you can locate where the data file saved, but you cannot open OMF tablespace file. The reason is it is made by Oracle, and if Oracle doesn't allow you to access the file using some operating system level applications like Windows Explorer or Unix C shell or Bash shell. Okay, so, and you can define extent. Okay, and you can also define segment. But I don't like, well, for now, if your database is for regular purpose, like OLTP, you don't need to change segment and block size. But if your database has specific purpose, like for social network, in that case, you need to considering the characteristic of the service, you should be able to adjust segment and block size. So for fast input, like social network, when you need to, where the daily transaction or daily new posting on Twitter was 205 millions per day when I researched 2019, and the number of the daily transactions are exponentially increased. So I guess it should be more than 500 million transactions per day for now. So, which means database needs to receive tremendous insert transaction. In that case, and also Twitter, this is just an example. Twitter only support up to 140 characters for one posting or mention. So you don't need to have very long character type data column. So in that case, which means by adjusting block size from default to maybe up to 150, you can optimize block size for the most of transactions. Or what if your the big database needs to support multimedia binary file? Multimedia like MP3 files is about 5 megabyte to 20 megabytes. And this is, I don't know if you have any student, if there is any student have LG smartphone, no one, right? I've never seen so far. Many of the cases students have iPhone, or some students may have Galaxy. The reason I have LG is LG has the most advanced DAC, digital audio codec. So it supports hi-fi audio, loud noisiness, looseness, audio. It supports looseness audio files. So I have, and LG phone is much better. Some LG phones like this is much better than hi-fi audio players. I have $300 audio player in my place, but it is much better than this. And I have, how much have you spent on earpiece or headphone? Huh?
Like $100.
$100.
Yeah, for my AirPods.
And how many? What is the how much did you spend on your plug or headphone? She said $100 for headphone or earpiece. Huh? Something. I have two high-end earphones by Weston and Shure. One of my earphone is, its original price is $1,500, but I didn't spend all the money to buy that. I purchased the discounted price, $1,000. It is wired. It is wired. And another earphone I have is $600, produced by Shure. Anyway, those earphone it fits to LG, and which means I really enjoy hi-fi audio source, like 20 megabytes. So if your database needs to support multimedia, which means the multimedia source saved as binary within a column in your database, then you need to have long block size, or it's better to, because sometimes block size is not enough. Even though you have very big block, it is better to fit segment to contain binary files rather than using single block. So in that case, anyway, you need to increase block size and segment size, unlike fast input transactions. So, well, it is, if you need to, if I want to go to very deep about segment and block, I can spend maybe a couple of months, and we can test when the database can be optimized depending on the characteristics of possible data. But I just need to stop here because you will. It is a much it's very complicated level, and you need to. You may need now have a chance to adjust segment and block size, even if you have quite long experience in the industry. I adjust block and segment size maybe two or three times only, because I need to support binary files, multimedia. And okay, so other table options are block storage, block size, minimum extent, logging, non-logging. If you choose non-logging, users' activities in users table space will not be transferred to sysaux table space. So it's better to, it is, well, obviously better to make table space as logging. Okay. Okay, so also you can create temporary table space, but to create temporary table space, you need to have option like this: create temporary table space. And what is the difference between temporary and regular table space? If the owner of table space is disconnected from work database, then temporary table space will be disabled automatically. So normally the reason temporary table space is created is for creating, sometimes we need to calculate from very complicated logic, such as when I work as a ERP solution company, I needed to, one of my charge, I was charged in calculating part-time workers' salary per month, and the part-time workers, I need to very delicately calculate how many minutes are at work for the last month, because it is very closely related to their salary, and I also counted by millisecond level. But you have to be some milliseconds should be cut, but no, I didn't try. I tried to not to lose any minute and any second for the part-time workers, because there are many part-time workers and full-time workers in the manufacturing industry, and one of my client was located industry complex in South Korea, and the company and our clients have many many numbers of work employees, part-time or full-time. Anyway, so the calculation was very complicated, and decided to use temporary table space. So what I did is, after creating temporary table space, I created stored procedure. And if I run the stored procedure, and all the low information is saved to temporary table space, and calculation was conducted in the temporary table space, and the sum of minutes and converted salary is stored not in temporary table space, but in the regular table space. So if I complete the calculation of the employees, then just need to disconnect from Oracle database, and temporary table space is gone. That is what how I utilize temporary table space. Okay, and you can make undo table space. By default, undo table space is create when you create a database instance. Okay, and it is for rolling back transaction, right? Undo table is for rollback command, and unsaved data is stored in undo table space. Okay. When you need to remove table space, you can use drop command, like drop table and so. But drop is not only for dropping table, it also but for drop table space, drop any types of object in Oracle database. So it can be used to remove table space, table, view, user, and roles, and etc. But you cannot drop system table space. Okay, but you can drop user table space like user data, HR data we have created yet, but anyway. So we're going to create some table space on 21st because you have exam next week. Okay, and I will go through assignment 5 on 21st. So once you create table space, then you can see how many table space are created and how the table space are linked with the data files. It is possible to check in EM, but I'm not sure if it is possible for in Oracle 19c because I saw many functions of EM of Oracle database 19c were reduced compared with 12c. So let me check out how many table space I can see, or if I can see table space on EM. As I mentioned, the functions of EM of Oracle 19c is reduced or reduced. Yes, it is. Seems like it is impossible to check out cohesion between data file and table spaces. It only shows performance. So, but it's still possible to check out table spaces using SQL plus SQL Developer. But anyway, I'm going to show table space using SQL Developer on 21st. The reason is we have two cases. So, okay, and